So, Hare Krishna, and welcome to Pandavasena's alumni event tonight, here in front of a very beautiful Krishna Balaram Mandir. I'd like to say thank you to Brajeshwar and his good wife Priya, Nimai and his good wife Kinjal for organizing a lovely event, and for a host of people who have cooked lovely prasadam. Did everyone have a nice dinner? Good. So it's my pleasure to introduce a very special guest, also my privileged spiritual master, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami. I'm privileged. Just checking you're all awake. Maharaj likes an attentive audience. So, don't mind the redness. So, His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Swami comes from Vrindavan, where this lovely landscape is exhibiting, the place where Krishna performs his pastimes. Previously, he was coming from the Netherlands, where many other activities happen. But Maharaj has had an amazing adventure in life from his youth, where life in his family and the things he could see in life around him just didn't always add up. So then he went on a lovely adventure to the east, where he found Krishna Consciousness as the answer to all these questions that many people in life ask. So Maharaj tonight will be addressing us on the topic of the adventures in Krishna Consciousness. So I'd like everybody to warmly welcome him with a round of applause and Hari Bols.
I think it's good if it's on. Hare Krishna. Yes. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnanandana Salakya Chakshura Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I am a spontaneous speaker, not one who kind of preconceives what he's going to say, and sometimes I surprise myself, and I think that's what I'm going to do tonight, because I have no idea of what I'm going to say, but I think life is our adventure, and especially when we begin spiritual life, because as long as we are in material life, it is repetitious, material life. The Bhagavad Gita points out that life after life, Deinusmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptiya dhirasata namuyati. Just as in this life we go through so many changes of body, from youth to old age, then we go into another body and it starts again. And the Bhagavatam calls that Puna Punas Charvita Charvananam, chewing the chewed, all over, again and again. Same thing, but in a different body, a different stage. But the script is pretty much the same. I'm thinking of a cartoon which showed different people sitting next to each other, and each were hiding their most intimate thoughts, and you see the thoughts in the thought bubble, and they're the same. Right? They're hiding their secrets from each other, and they're the same, because basically life is not so adventurous. It's all the same routine in the material world. But when spiritual life begins, it changes. That's where the real adventure begins. So I guess what I tried to do before, jumping on magic buses that were going towards India, and the magic was that the bus reached India eventually, because such an old bus, right? And then driving over mountains in East Turkey, dirt roads, right? Crawling up the mountain in those buses, driving through Pakistan in dry riverbeds, hanging off a truck while driving over the Khyber Pass, that was certainly adventurous. And it was also meaningful. Of course, my pre-Krishna conscious adventures are like a journey from Amsterdam towards India, and many stops on the way. And if I'm very honest about that journey, it wasn't just only spiritual. Maya was also very present. I have read Radhanath Maharaj's Journey Home, and my journey was on the same route. But in my story, it gets. He was a seeker for religion, and he was known as monk, he says, by his friends. I wasn't known as monk. I was writing songs. I wrote, "I'm nothing but a stranger, always around. I'm nothing but a seeker for what I've never found." And that was sort of how I began. I'm a stranger wherever I am. I'm not at home. I don't belong in all these situations. I'm looking for something, but I don't know what it is. But I will know it when I find it. That was my mood. Not an not an unusual approach in those days, but I was very serious about it though. And so I was definitely looking, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. I was quite sure it wasn't drugs, because I came from Amsterdam and I had some realizations. So in that regards, I was sure. I came, but when I came to Afghanistan, I played music and I met there was a girl who invited me to play in a club, which I did, and they were paying me for it. And I remember she smiled at me, very beautiful, and threw something in the tea. And I got bewildered by the beauty, and I drank that tea. I should not have drunk that tea, I tell you that. The front door was open for 1 week and the back door closed. It was my last experience with drugs. I had enough. And I really didn't want it. But because of the beautiful girl, I did it. And I came to India. And in India, some people would go down towards the south, towards Goa, and whatever was going on in Goa. I didn't go to Goa. I never went there actually, because I wasn't attracted to that. Others went to the Himalayas or to Benares, I went to Benares, the Ganga. And it was at the Ganga that my transcendental adventure began, my spiritual life began. The other day I was reading a quote of Martin Luther, who said that God did not just write the gospel in the Bible, but he also wrote it on the trees, on the leaves, on the flowers, and nature. And I liked that quote, that we cannot just limit spiritual life to the teachings of a book. Spiritual life is all around us. It is everywhere. The book is simply helping us to see it. It's not the book that is actually containing Krishna consciousness. Krishna is everywhere. The book helps us to perceive Krishna everywhere. So the real adventure is really beginning to see that. That is where it becomes exciting. I saw a dead body lying on the street in Benares. And I saw how the people just walked past. There was no police. There was no blanket or anything covering it. The body was lying there in full sight, and the people were throwing coins on the body as they walked past. So within 10 minutes, the whole body was buried in coins. So that was something. And so I stood there in disbelief looking at this scene, and I asked someone, and the person said that, when someone dies, the soul goes out of the body, and then the person looks down upon the body and wants to go back, but cannot go back. He can hear everyone, but no one can hear him. And, however, this person now has to move on to his next destination, he said. Therefore, he said, in our tradition, the body must be burned as soon as possible so that that person cannot try to go back. And because this man had no money, everyone threw some money on the body so that it can be burned. They could buy the firewood and burn the body so that his soul could move on. So it was kind of a Bhagavad Gita illustrated experience, right? A very much, you're not the body. And I thoroughly assimilated it. I started to realize it. So here is true adventure. True adventure is not just chewing the chewed. Right? I went into some sort of machine, and they were spinning us around upside down, 300 feet above the ground, and we were screaming, and it was such an adventure. No. That is just a cheap experience. Maybe not so cheap, but, anyway, but not very meaningful. Although it's near death. In Amsterdam, I saw there was above a market square. People were sitting on seats, nicely drinking drinks. And then above the square, there was a crane, and people would go down bungee jumping above the crowd. And the crowd was watching. But it wasn't just single people bungee jumping. Oh no. They were couples, and they were going, because it's Amsterdam, and they were going down in an embrace. And if marriage don't work, that's something you can still try. Yeah? It brings you back together. Yeah. Anyhow. But I'm not speaking about these kind of adventures. I'm speaking about discovering something of reality, uncovering, lifting the tip of the curtain and of what is really out there. That is what intrigued me. So my experience in Benares, the man with the coins, that was something that showed me very clearly that all those people believed that one continued to exist separate from the body, continue to exist after this life, moving on to a next destination, and so on. And that was very, very strong. So years later, or maybe not years, but anyway, sometime later, when I finally read the Bhagavad Gita, then I thought, yes, I know all this. Because I had been in the culture which was based on the Gita, and where the people were actually living a life based on that understanding. So, real adventures bring us closer to the truth. They are meaningful to the soul, not just some some excitement, some cheap excitement, like I painted it before, spinning around in a machine above the ground or something. So there's a lot of these kind of artificial adventures, adventure sports, hand gliding, Of course, everybody is scared. I used to sail on the North Sea with a sailing yacht, and we would go out in heavy weather because we were young and crazy, and we wanted to show off, and I was dead scared. Of course, if someone would ask, you would just say, "Oh, you were just out sailing." Yes, yeah. It was a bit rough out there. Yes. Acting cool. So that's artificial. But real adventure is about growth. So I was later I became involved in the Hare Krishna movement, and I lived in Vrindavan. That gentleman with the gray hair over there, he was my neighbor, Rupa Vilas. He also lived there, and I stayed there. But then one day, I got this notice that I had to leave the country. Visa, the police suddenly sent me a message. I had to leave India within 3 days, and there was nothing I could do about it. They do these things sometimes. No explanation given, just notice to leave the country. So, all right, I left. And I went to Nepal. And then I was supposed to wait 3 months and get a new visa to go back to India. So I was sitting there in Nepal, and it's a nice country, but I was getting a little bored. And then someone offered me to go on a bus ride overland to Europe. So I thought that's something to do. I said, okay, let's go. And we went and drove through India. I got a transit visa, that was okay. And we made it. And in those days, I had become a Hare Krishna, and one thing I didn't do is I wasn't reading newspapers. So I had no idea. But by then it was 1979. And as we drove up to the border of Iran, Khomeini had just taken over Iran. There was a revolution going on. And we drove into Iran, and we drove into the middle of the revolution. And suddenly there was a man with a beard and a cap and a machine gun who looked like Fidel Castro's brother. And he flagged down our bus. He said, so we stopped, and he said, "You're going to the revolutionary headquarters." And then, when we came there was an angry crowd waiting. But our friend with the machine gun said, "Get down off the bus." So we did. And the crowd made a pathway which was leading to some gate in some fort. And we walked towards the gate, and they began to hit us on our back. And we ran towards the gate. And when we walked in, we came into a courtyard, and there was a firing squad. And they said, "Line up against the wall." And we stood there. Now I was at the time a Hare Krishna devotee. And I stood next to someone. And the funny thing was that as I was standing in the line on the wall in front of the firing squad, my mind was desperately thinking of an escape. It's thinking, how do I get out of here? So I got this ridiculous plan. It's an absolutely ridiculous plan, but that's what I got. So what I did is I was moving very slowly, but surely. And sneaky as I am, I was hiding behind my neighbor. Now, not completely, because that would be too obvious, but at about 60%. And I thought, I know machine gun bullets go through people, but still it feels maybe better if I'm not the first one, you know. And I thought, as soon as I see that they sort of flex their muscles, I fall sideways and I fall behind the people. And then if I'm still alive, I'll act dead, you know, and then take it from there, you know. As I said, a ridiculous plan. But I held on to this plan. Somehow or other, I held on to this plan because I didn't have faith. I didn't at that time have the faith to just leave it up to Krishna. To just say, okay, Krishna, as you wish. If you wish to take me or whatever you desire now. At this point, I'm powerless. I'm in front of a firing squad. What can I do now? Nothing. That's obviously what I should have done. You know, I should have prayed like that, right? But foolishly enough, I was praying, oh, Krishna, get me out of here. And at the same time, sneaking behind my neighbor, right? Which showed where my faith was at the time. I was not ready to rely on Krishna. I was exposed. So this is the adventure that we're speaking about. It's not the guns. It's not the man with the beard, Fidel Castro's brother, right? It's not that. It is really, we're speaking about how our relationship with Krishna is unfolding. That's the real adventure. You see, it's all about relationship, right? We are always in a relationship, right? Even when we are alone, we are turning to someone. Even hermits, right? Hermits are alone, but then they're reaching out to God. Or some who are not religious hermits, right? They come back to the people to tell them about them. Like Thoreau in Walden, right, is writing about his experience in solitude. And then he's sharing it with the world at large, you know, his years in solitude. Because ultimately, we are meant to be in some relationship. So, you know, like you see, for example, I have some books. I have one book, a huge compendium of Western thought. Right? It's a big, huge, big book. And then in the dedication, it says, for Emily, right? Or to Emily. Right? And I'm thinking, did you really do all that for Emily? You know what I mean? Jeez, is she ever going to read it all, you know? I mean, serious work, you know? Huge, to Emily, right? But he has to prove himself to someone, to Emily, right? Because, okay, Emily loves him, and so on, and all that. So, relationship. Yes, and everyone, therefore, adventure always, you look at any movie, at one point there's the hero and the heroine, right? It has to come in, you know. It doesn't matter. Any adventure movie wouldn't be complete unless there would be a hero and a heroine or something like that. Some relationship is there. So, but all relationships, they simply come and go. Come and go. Have to watch the time. But we started a little later, right? So I had 45 minutes for the talk, so I'm okay. I'm 20 minutes in the talk. So I'm thinking about a book of Simone de Beauvoir. And it's a book which shows a man in the Middle Ages, And he is an alchemist, and he's playing around with all kinds of test tubes and all these things and bubbling things. And in the end, he makes this elixir. And there is this elixir, the elixir of youth, the elixir of eternal life. He has found it. He's convinced that he has found the elixir of eternal life. And he drinks it, but he feels no change, still the same. So, then he thinks, well, how do I know it's true? What if I made a mistake? So, he decides to test it. So he has this mouse which he's caught in a trap. So he gives the mouse some of that elixir to drink. Then he takes the mouse and puts it into some contraption, some sort of machine, a press. And he just pulls the handle and crushes the mouse. And next moment, whoop, the mouse is back. And now he realizes, I am eternal. And next he realizes, and I have to live forever with a mouse. Anyway, the book continues like that. And then what happens is, he has his love affairs and so on, and he loves everyone very much, but no one that much that he's ready to give them eternity. So they die. And then his sons, his wives died, and the sons are still alive, and the father just doesn't die. And there's nothing to inherit, They even poison him, and still he doesn't die. It becomes a whole thing, right? So, and in the end, he just sits in this kind of asylum, some old people home, in a wheelchair, and he sort of does nothing, as if he's catatonic. But he's not. He's not. But he's lost all interest in doing anything in the world because he sees it's fruitless. It just comes into existence and flourishes for a while, dwindles and ceases to exist. He sees these changes, and he loses all interest. And of course, in the book, there's a nurse who's trying to revive him, and in the end, she manages to revive him for a while. But he is... So, therefore, I'm telling you this story of Simone de Beauvoir just to tell you that all material adventure ultimately is empty. So to show the emptiness of material adventure, I've now explained it, it's about relationship. And only the relationship with Krishna lasts. That's why the adventure is the uncovering of the relationship with Krishna. Well, that carried on. And we were there in that Vrindavan, the headquarters of, or at least the spiritual headquarters, along with Mayapur, of course, but of the entire movement. Everyone came there. All the leaders of the movement came there. And Prabhupada sent his Gurukul there. The school was there. It was a powerful project. We had to pioneer. We had to struggle. We had to sort of. Things were not all laid out. Many things had to just be built up from scratch. Like if you look now at the manor, it's an established institution. Everything is there. It's the whole Hare Krishna movement is like a large established institution with different categories of people who have different categories of programs suitable according to their particular inclination and so on. And tonight is also an evening with such a theme and such a mood, right? A group of like-minded people who are going somewhere in their life. It wasn't like that in Vrindavan. It was the school of hard knocks, right? And only like determined people who really wanted to stay there because this is the abode of Krishna, who were ready to accept anything, right? They were going to stay, and everyone else is going to run away. And we knew it, and it was tough. And that was an opportunity, a great opportunity. I wanted to take it. I was ready. I was ready to stay there for my whole life. Oh yes. I was thinking, I'll stay in this project, Vrindavan, for the rest of my life. That will be my home, and I'll somehow or other try and serve Prabhupada here. And Prabhupada wrote this one letter. And in this letter, he wrote that he wanted 25 Goswamis in Vrindavan, right? He wanted, just like the 6 Goswamis who were the main followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who stayed in Vrindavan. They were the inspiration of Krishna Consciousness. And Prabhupada said he wanted 25 men like that. And I thought, I want to be one of them. And I'm going to try and just stay here for the rest of my life. What happened? What happened? Many things happened. I stayed there. I sometimes had to leave because of visa or other reasons, but came back. I served whatever difficulty there was. I tried to rise to the occasion. That was the adventure. In an adventure, if you're out in the jungle in the Amazon, right, you cannot not sort of say, now it's too much. No, you have to rise to the occasion. Right? Whatever it is, you have to deal with it. Vrindavan is like that. Right? Anything can happen. And whatever it is, you have to rise to the occasion. So I tried to rise to the occasion. And of course, yes, at one point, I was the temple president in Vrindavan. And I was, one day, a sannyasi. I was married in the days, and in the culture of Krishna consciousness, sannyasis, those who are in the renounced order, are considered like the teachers of all other ashrams, and they're respected by all. And in Vedic culture, all others, they bow once a day to a sannyasi. So this sannyasi, early in the morning, someone knocks on my door. It's a sannyasi, and he bows down to me. So I was embarrassed. Right? I mean, he bows down to me, Indian sannyasi, and he bows down to me. And I also bow down and I say, please, Maharaj, please don't do. He says, no, it is our duty. And then he walks away. The next day, knock on my door, 6 a.m, same time. I open the door, and there he is again, and he bows down again. And I bow down and say, Maharaj, please, don't do this, Maharaj. He says, no, it is our duty. So he did this for a week, for a whole week, every day. I at 6 o'clock, so I opened the door and I was already down, but he also went down. He also went down. And in this way, this is going on for a week. at the end of the week, I said, Maharaj, please, why are you doing this? He said, no, it is our duty. After all, you are our father. And I never thought of it like that. I was the head of the ashram, but I never thought of myself like his father. And it's like an Indian way, of teaching, the indirect way, sort of. He really got through to me, I must say. That's the adventure of life. If you cannot... What is an adventure? An adventure is that you live the life of your heart, that you live the life of the truth, of what you really believe in. Right? That's an adventure. My father told me, son, life is a compromise. And I told him, maybe for you it is, but not for me. My father is late. Not just late this evening, but late, But if I could talk to him, now, I would tell him the same, Life may be a compromise for you and not for me. And why not? Because I didn't compromise on my ideal. Oh no. And that's where the adventure begins. The adventure to strive for perfection. That's where life becomes a great adventure. Right? Nothing less. Oh no, I haven't attained it. Oh no, it's not so cheap. Oh no, you can put on bright orange and so many other things, and carry the biggest danda in the universe, but that doesn't, that's not enough. Oh no. But I didn't settle for a compromise, and I will not. Still striving for perfection. And then the adventure begins. That's where it begins. And that is really, otherwise, it's can be boring when you live the life of someone else. Can be pretty dry when you're just playing a role. When you're simply conforming to all the other sheep, right? You look left, you look right, and all the sound you hear is bleh. Yes. I have one time made a group of 400 people do it all together, right? I made them all say, "Be, I won't make you do it." And the reason why not is it shocked me so much when all these people together did it. It sounded so authentic. It was just too much. No. So let's not be sheep. Let's be bold. Let's be adventurous. Let us live for the ideal and see where it will take us. Oh, you never know. I thought I was going to stay in Vrindavan for the rest of my life, but anyway, someone apparently wanted me to go, and they thought to remove me permanently, because when I went to a bathroom, they did shoot me in the back. Don't ask me why, because there are no name tags on bullets with explanations. But I was injured and survived it, as you can see, and had to temporarily retreat. Anyway, but I was determined to not give up Vrindavan. So I'm not telling you the story about a shooting incident. I'm also not taking questions on this topic, by the way. Yeah. But it did happen. And then what happened is, how could I go back when people who had been trying to shoot me were still there? But James Bond went to Vrindavan. I went by a back road. And I came via Garuda Govinda, via the back road, and came in, and suddenly there I was, and everyone said, "Oh, you're back, you're back, you're back. Are you staying?" I said, "No, I'm leaving at 6. I left at 4 in a different car." The first time I came back and spent the night there, right? It wasn't me who was sleeping in the bed. That was a blanket. I was on the floor. Anyway, James Bond went to Vrindavan. But what to say? And I had to, I tried to rely on Krishna, but also not be naive. Right? I rely on Krishna, and I close my eyes and I cross the highway. Krishna will protect me. No, you look at left and right. So I try to sort of send out some message to whoever, to the forces that were out to send me somewhere else. I was to send out a message to them. I'm here, coming in peace. I'm not upsetting anyone. I'm just here, minding my own business. So they got the message and left me alone, so that I could at least continue going to a holy place. Well, that was quite a change. See, I don't want to talk about who pulled the trigger and all that boring stuff. I want to talk about what it did to me. Suddenly, Vrindavan, the place where I was going to spend my life, was off the map. It was, and then I had to internalize it. I realized that actually this whole Vrindavan, this whole spiritual world exists within us. And it is there that I have to meet Krishna. It is ultimately there. It is ultimately within. The real adventure is not just outside of me, it is within. And of course, in the external situations, I have to conquer so many weaknesses in myself. So many things I have to conquer to come closer to Krishna. So in this way, the adventure is unfolding. It's unfolding. I said to my father, I wouldn't compromise. If I can't go back to Vrindavan, then I should do something bold. Let me take sannyas. All right. I was sitting in the Bhaktivedanta manor because I received sannyas in the Bhaktivedanta manor. And I was sitting there in this fire sacrifice. And I was sweating. And not because of the heat of the fire, but because I was thinking, why do you always have to do something crazy? Why do you always have to, do something extremely difficult? Can't you just be normal like everyone else? You're still young. Why do you have to take it now? But I was a bit late. 2 minutes later, they told me I should get up and change my clothes. So I did. That's part of the ceremony. When you take sannyas, you take your old cloth, you go in a little room, change your cloth, and you come out in the new outfit, and then they give you that danda. Whoa. So I took it, and that was an adventure. And then as I left, I went by boat to France. And as I came to France, they said that my passport was false, and the first thing they did is they confiscated my danda. It was getting serious. Immediately. It was, I remember in Vrindavan I once saw someone take sannyas. I wasn't there for the ceremony, but he came back as a sannyasi, and then he went to his best friend and he said, I want your tape recorder. And then they had a big argument. But in the end, he said, "Oh, you can't do this to me. Not to... we are friends. How can you take my tape recorder?" But he insisted, and in the end, he got the tape recorder. I saw that. Anyway, the purification. They say it all comes out in the wash. And that is really what it is. The adventure is like a big wash, and we're in it and going through it. And we know where we want to go. We want to go to that point of being a pure devotee, of full surrender to Krishna. And somehow or other, we're going through our whole path with all the shake-ups, etc. And there are obstacles, and there are people who make it hard for us. And then there's our mind and our senses, and we have moments of weakness. All these things, it's all there. And all that is part of a large adventure. And thinking about that, that is the real adventure. So, going through so many experiences and so much time, I gave a few to illustrate my points. We come to the point where we say, and now, what is next? What is next? And I was in Vrindavan, and every year we were celebrating the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada. And that was the day that many guests would come and visit our temple. Many important guests from Vrindavan and others. There were men who had been there in Prabhupada's time. Mr. Sethi came from Bombay. And Acharya Prabhakar, Prabhupada's first disciple in India, he would come and speak, and so many others would come and speak on that day. And I remember that there was Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, right? And he spoke. And he'd come every year, and he would tell some anecdotes of pastimes with Prabhupada and so on. But the time moved on, and he became older and older, and he was 93 at one point. And I think that was the last time he came, from what I remember. And I remember that 4 brahmacharis carried him. And they carried him, and I also remember that they sort of dropped him on the Vyasasan. They didn't put him on it, but they dropped him, and he just, boom, landed on it. And I said, oh my God. I mean, what? To be 93 is intense. And then they told him, speak. And then when it was time to speak, then he said, Swamiji, that was referring to Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji made you all Vaishnavas. And Vaishnavas can give blessings. So you please all bless me. And that was it. And I was really thinking about that. I was thinking, this is an old man, a really old man, who is at the end of his life, an old Vaishnava, who is now thinking that what I have done this life is not enough. It's not enough. Whatever I've done, whatever I've surrendered to Krishna, I held back. I didn't do enough. Now, more than ever, what I need is blessings. Blessings of Vaishnavas, of those Vaishnavas, because Vaishnavas have done something for Krishna and they've attracted Krishna. by their service. So therefore they can give blessings. So let me get as many blessings from as many Vaishnavas as possible, because that might just tip the balance in my favor. And thus, he said, Swamiji made you all Vaishnavas. And with those few words, he gave full recognition to what Prabhupada did, transforming these people from all over the world into real Vaishnavas who could give blessings, who had credit with Krishna. And therefore, you please bless me. And I thought that was profound. And I think that's where the adventure ends, right? That's where our adventure ends, where we realize that all our endeavors, all the mountain peaks we climbed, all the wild water rivers we cross, all those adventures that we gone to, all the balloons that we have flown, and everything else that we have done for Krishna, all the incredible things, will it be enough? We realize at the end of all the adventures, we need all the blessings we can get. And then, ready to go before Krishna. The end. The lion appears on the screen, opens his mouth, and all the names of the actors begin to scroll, and so on. And everyone slowly gets up from their seats and ready to move on to the next part of the evening, which is now that you can give us your feedback by your questions or your comments for the next so many minutes. Yes. I'm as deaf can be.
Maharaj, let me know if I need to speak louder, but you talked about two incidents, one of which you said we can't ask you questions about.
Correct.
But the first one, you didn't say that. So I want to ask you a question about the first shooting incident, because I don't remember what the actual ending was of that, because you mentioned that you were hiding behind someone.
I didn't get shot, I was just standing against the wall, right?
Yeah, you're about to. So I think my first part of my question is what happened? What was the kind of the ultimate ending of that particular pastime?
I got shot and I reincarnated. That's why I look so young.
I did have a second part, but I'm not sure.
Please.
The second part of the question was, you said that you wanted to surrender at that point, or you were thinking that, now reflecting back, that maybe you weren't surrendered because you were trying to hide behind the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you were talking about walking across the highway and how you can't be saying, oh, I'm surrendered to Krishna, and then not look left or right and then get run over.
Right.
So how do you know at what point in your life and what the adventures of life bring, when to use your intelligence to find a way out of that situation?
No, we should use our intelligence to find ways out of a situation, as long as it's within reason, as long as it's within the grasp of our intelligence. What I was trying to do there at the wall was a bit beyond reason. You see, it was a bit of an unreasonable plan, but I was desperately wanting some sort of plan, so therefore I made up a plan that wasn't really very realistic, right? Because these bullets, they really go through people. Right, you can shoot a few rows of people, no problem. So that was not so. Plus, it was machine guns. It's not one bullet; it's a whole bunch of them, and there were like at least a dozen. I can't remember exactly, but at least a dozen of them. So little chance. Right? So it was better at that time, maybe, to fully rely on Krishna, like Draupadi. Draupadi was in the midst of the assembly. They were about to disrobe her, and she held on to her dress. Come on, what could she do? Dusasana had arms like, like a professional wrestler. There was no question, right, of physically fighting with him. The circumstances were overpowering. So in overpowering circumstances, then we must turn to Krishna fully. At that point, Draupadi threw her arms up in the air when she realized, I have no, it's not within my power to do anything. So I should have also just thrown my arms up in the air, said, oh Krishna, it's not within my power now. Yeah. Yes, Rupa Hospital.
You mentioned about...
I am really deaf.
You mentioned compromise.
Yes.
That you didn't agree with your father who said that life is a compromise, but sometimes it's not always clear. What's a compromise?
Yes.
What isn't it? What is and what isn't it?
Yeah. Did everyone hear that? It's pretty loud. Yeah. I'm married. I asked for it. And yes, it may not be always clear, but in my talk, I kind of emphasized that the essence is that we should keep on striving for the ideal. It doesn't mean that in life we just stubbornly go in one direction, and nothing can stop me. There is this Monty Python movie, I think many of us have seen, but there is this knight who comes, and then there's, I am Arthur, king of the and then this, and then Arthur warns him, right, that don't come any further, and he goes anyway, and he chops off an arm, he chops off a leg, he chops everything, he chops him to pieces, like little by little. And he keeps on fighting. He misses one arm, he still goes, right? Pointless, just, so that's not what I was speaking about. Sometimes we may have to make adjustments in our plans, but we are not adjusting our ideal. Our ideal is still there, to become pure devotees, pure followers of Krishna, Prabhupada, and so on. That we will never give up for nothing. I had to temporarily leave Vrindavan, although I wanted to stay for the rest of my life. And it broke my heart, but what to do? I had to. So, oh, come on, you should not have compromised. You should have just relied on Krishna. He would have protected you. Yeah, but, I also had to use my brain, right? And say so let things cool down for a while, which I did. So one has to not compromise one's commitment to pure devotional service. In that way, I can say to my father that you may have compromised, but not me. No. Still want to get that. Still trying for it. Although so far, stumbling on the path, stumbling on the path. Anyone else? Yes.
Maharaj, just taking the same point of compromise, and you talked about relationships. So the basis of relationship is a compromise. In Grahastha ashram, a man and a wife, if there is no compromise, there is virtually no existence of relationship. Mm-hmm. So the higher principle in that may be a different.
You sound like my
your
father.
Ideals are. Of course, ideals are not to be compromised, but just in case of relationship, the compromise is a must. What would you say, Maharaj?
My dear father, I appreciate your logic very much, but I think that a relationship that the basis of the relationship is not compromise. I think that the basis of a relationship is commitment. Is commitment, an unbroken commitment. And that then, in the form of the relationship, there is compromise. You know what I mean? in the day-to-day dealings, in the external exchanges in the relationship, there's compromise. But I think the foundation, you set the basis, and there I disagree with you on that word basis, because I think the foundation of a relationship is commitment. And in our case, there is no question of a lasting or a real relationship between two people by themselves. It is, therefore, I always say, when a man looks his beloved in the eyes, he can say to her, darling, you are the most wonderful person in the world after Krishna. And that is where it stands. Krishna is the third person. He's the third person in every relationship to make it complete. And when that mutual commitment is there, where two people are committed to Krishna and then to stay together, then that relationship has a lasting meaning. And then all the compromise comes on top in, how they speak to each other, how they listen to each other, how they do this and that together, who has to get up and make the tea, and you name it. Right? There are many things. Yeah. I was married for 24 years, so I have some experience, but even then, no compromise, Dad. No, sorry. Okay. Thank you very much for chanting this evening. There will be more chanting tomorrow night in the manor for those who want to be there. And then we have more time to take it to another dimension. So, thank you very much. It was very nice to be in your association, and everyone has his own adventure, right? But ultimately, we all are hoping to find more meaning in life, and that we'll find at Krishna's feet, and then the adventure really is going to take us somewhere. So with that, I'll hope to meet you somewhere along the way, right? Again and again, and I thank you for being here all together. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. So, I was reflecting on what Maharaj had said, and I just wanted to share something that I felt was very powerful and possibly applicable to us as a group of devotees. So Maharaj said in question to his father, Sundar Nana Prabhu, he said that the basis of a relationship is commitment. And in this commitment, following our heart ideals, lies the real adventure of life. So similarly here, the devotees headed up by Brajeshwar, his good wife Priya, Nimai, and his good wife Kinjal, Yashoda, Naveen, etc. They are trying to build a community called Vrndavana Alumni, which is a group of devotees over the age of 25 who are eternally committed to serving Prabhupada and Radha Gokulananda and Krishna. So this is where the real adventure lies once we grow out of the youth of Pandavasena and we're in our working life with children and the days, struggles and fitting everything and the balancing game. We can go to Vrndavana Alumni and we can find there these lovely events, but also many, many adventurous projects where we can practically show our commitment to Krishna and Prabhupada and to one another. So please, afterwards, come and find one of us, share your interest. The devotees who took your registration details will also not bombard you, but they'll nudge you as to the next events. So watch the space for April. I would also like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the people who cooked the lovely prashadam. They were Daksha, Brajaras, Mitra Sen, Neha, Heno, Hasita, and Yashoda Sutta. So, like Yashoda Sutta, right? Yeah. So I'd like to just give a round of applause for all the cooks as well, please. So I'd like to apologize that the evening's run over. I know parents with their kids. Maybe something we just want to share is the reason the program is finishing late is because it started late, because people arrive late. So from the management, they'd just like to remind devotees, this is not like a normal Hare Krishna program where you calculate being half an hour late so that you missed the boring bit at the beginning. Please come on time, because alumni events start at the time that they advertise to get the best out of it, and so that you and your children can go back and go to sleep at a reasonable hour. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to our esteemed guest speaker, Kadamba Kanana Swami, for sharing his time. He's been on a long walk and speaking to devotees since 5 o'clock in the morning all the way through, and he still was able to share a lovely adventure of his personal example and inspire us to get committed and to join the adventure of Krishna Consciousness with like-minded friends. So hope you have a nice journey home. Thank you. Get home safe. Hare Krishna.